Hey guys, welcome to our channel Mainframe Girls. So, as the IDCAMS series is going on, this is the next video on one of the important parameter or important IDCAMS program, which is called verify. If you are dealing with VSAM datasets day-to-day life in your day-to-day mainframe life, 100% you have to know what is the importance of verify IDCAMS verify. Okay, what is IDCAMS verify? So, what by the word verified term, what is the term is saying? When do we use a term verify? Whether if it is correct or not. It's like checking, right? What it is checking? Why do we run this IDCAMS verify? Because when there is an improper, when you want to check that VSAM dataset is good, means if it is opened properly and written data properly and closed properly. When this work is done properly for a VSAM dataset, then there won't be any need of running a command verify. Okay, verify is something which will reflect the end of a VSAM dataset after an error occurs while closing a VSAM dataset. Okay, so when you're working with an suppose you're working with an, you will be doing reorg of a VSAM dataset, or you will be taking a backup of a VSAM dataset, or any of the activity. If you're doing with a VSAM dataset, it is recommended to run a verify first. Verify plus examine. Okay, verify plus examine. These two are recommended to run before doing any of the work with a VSAM dataset. What do these two do? I'll explain what is examine in the next video. But what is verify doing? Verify will help you, will tell you that the dataset means the pointers. What is a dataset? It's a pointer, right? It is the dataset, the catalog information is pointing to one of the data, every point of data. So when suppose think that you have used this data before, data set is been used before, okay, and it is not closed properly, and the work whatever, if you are used in that data set for writing information and that data set has stopped in this particular pointer and it has not gone to the next steps, what it will happen when you are using in the next time, the data set will be in a unsync mode. Okay, even the dataset has closed properly, this information, the next information will not be synced with its catalog. Okay, the catalog is the base for whole mainframe. Okay, so the information will not be in a sync. This dataset VSAM dataset information will not be in sync with catalog information. Then even if you close, open, whatever you do, when if there is not in a sync, the catalog, if it is not in sync with the catalog information, the data is not there in the data. According to the system will not know, because every system is accessed with a catalog. If that, if you in that VSAM, if the data is there also, if it is not in sync with VSAM means, with sync with catalog means, the system will not know whether this data is there or not. Okay, so when you're processing, when you're doing a backup, or when you're doing some reorg, when you're doing something, if you're doing without running a verify, you will be copying only half of the information and you will get an error. Okay, you'll get an error that says file is not working, the VSAM is not working properly. You will get a VSAM open issue, open close issue. You'll get an alert with saying that open close alert. Then you have to run this verify. To avoid that, it's better to run a verify before every VSAM processing. Okay, VSAM processing. If suppose there is means there is error. Okay, there is error. Then you have to use this recover parameter. What will this recover parameter will do? So when the sync of information which is not there, this will sync out the information. It will put the information in a proper synchronization with catalog and your data set. When you add the recover parameter, the verify command also completes the interrupted VSAM processing. So whatever the processing which was interrupted before, it will complete that interrupted processing. It will completely close that data set. As I told you, the end of data pointer, there will be a pointer called end of data pointer. or end of key range pointer. There are two pointers which should be set to end. Means when you open and close a data set, that should be set to off, that the data set has been closed properly. There are other two pointers which are end of output, means open for output and open for input. There are, when if open for output and input are two pointers which should be set on and off. Okay, so when you open a data set, the open for output data set will be open. That pointer will be turned to on. Okay, when you open a data set, that will turn to on. Okay, so if the data set has not closed properly, this open for output pointer will stay in on only. It will not go off to the off state. If it does not go into the off state, catalog will not know that this data set has been closed. If someone else is using this information, using this data, you will get an alert error saying that VSAM dataset has not closed properly. You will get an abend. Okay. You can also run this verify command on an entry sequence dataset. Okay. With recover parameter. Okay. With recover parameter, only if suppose it has some data in it which isn't empty, then successfully it will recover the data and it will verify the data set. Okay, so you should have understood how much important this verify parameter means verify program is if you are working with a VSAM data set. Okay, we have only two parameters, required parameters, which are only two parameters, that is file DD name or dataset. So the dataset name which you want to run, you will be keeping here. If you are giving directly dataset parameter, if you're giving a file DD parameter, you will specify your dataset name in that DD statement. And I have told you why we use recover. When the data is stopped in between, if there is an interruption, you need to recover the data, you need to sync your catalog. Synchronization is an important part. If you want to synchronize your catalog and VSAM data, then you will be using this recover parameter. Okay, this is somewhat briefing about the parameters. File DD, DD name is a DD statement identifying the cluster or alternate index being verified. The data set is deallocated at the verify job termination. Okay, so when you are using that data set, when you're, as I told you, that open for output and open for input flags will be there. So it will be deallocated when the verify job means if it is that verify job is failing, means you have to use that recover step to run it properly. You can use file or you can use dataset. If you're using a dataset, you can directly mention your dataset name in this entry name. Specifies the name of the object being verified. If the dataset is specified, the object is dynamically allocated. The dataset is deallocated dynamically at the job termination. Okay, if you want to specify, if you want to check normally you can run the job with only this statement, only verify. You do not need this list C all and list C all. These statements are not needed. But if you want to see exactly the output, exactly what is happened before, what happened to your data set before, what do we say? Verify and after verify. So when you want to check this, in this list cat, you will check the values. End of data value, EOD value will be there. End of key range value, EOKR and EOKR and end of data value. Okay, these two values you can check here, and after running a proper verify command which will which will verify this two members, and you can check in the next list cat and see how they are modified. And remember that verify will not alter any of the data. Verify will not change any data. If you run a verify is just opening and closing a data set. If you are running without a recover parameter, okay, if you are running without a recover parameter, verify will do nothing to your data set. It will just open and close it properly, so that if there is some error to your VSAM data set, it will help you to recover. It will help you to correct it. If there isn't any error, mostly verify should run successfully. Your output should get successful. Hopefully it won't be having any issue. If there is an issue, you have to run it with a recover parameter. This is a small example of checking a VSAM data set before doing any task to it. See, here the task which we are doing, this is just our test case. Okay, this is our safety side which we are doing. The important task which we are doing is repro. What is meant by repro? I'll explain you in the previous other videos which I'll be making. In brief, repro is nothing but copying the data from input data to a output data set. Means you're copying this data from tar in to tar out. Okay, this is one VSAM file and you're copying this VSAM file data to another VSAM file. Okay, but so before that, if you want to check, before doing this repro, if you want to check that data, whatever there is in tar in is proper or not. If it is in a proper without any errors, it's there or not. So normally you run an examine. Okay, examine is nothing but it will check the structure of your data set. If the catalog is properly structured or not, this data set. So it will check your index parameter and data parameter. It will index test and data test will run. Suppose the code which I have written here is if last CC means your CC is greater than 4, then do a verify. Then you will run a verify means there is some error to your data set. Okay, examine will give you a proper records. How many records it's there, control intervals, how many control area is there, what is the control area, control intervals, and how many records are there in that. It will give that information. Suppose if examine fails, then run a verify. What will verify do? It will recover with a recover parameter. It will recover the data. It will make the data set properly. Data set will be done proper. After this, again run a examine. If this time the data set has ran properly, if alias CC is greater than 4, again if abandoned means, then set max CC to 12 and abend the job here. But suppose if it isn't abandoned here, if it is less than 4, do the repro, then do the copy. So whatever you do here, it is mentioned in a single job, but normally you can run in a different jobs. You can run examine verify in a single job. Okay, you can run a IDCAMS before doing any of the repro task or backup task or any of the task. You can run examine verify. Just remember to run an examine verify job always before doing any work to your VSAM data set. Okay, I'll be making more of the videos on IDCAMS series there, because there are lot of things which IDCAMS do and which I am telling you now. Also I am telling in very brief. If you have any doubts or regarding any of this examine or verify, what is this IDCAMS doing, any of other topics, if you need regarding in explanation with IDCAMS, please let me know in the comment section so that I'll tell you and I'll explain you. So kindly like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.